Someone might be like, I'm not being fair comparing this to a mid-ranger of the time. If you want to compare your Infinix to my big bad boy here, although it's 6 years old, you need to think twice. It is a Super AMOLED display. It's not LCD. Okay, your mid-range shoots 4K. Does it have optical image stabilization? It doesn't. Well, this has IP68 rating. Does yours have that? No. This has Corning Gorilla Glass 4. Does it have that? Well, this has. The only device I could compare this to now is mid-ranges, not flagships. Obviously, the flagships are gonna have better than this. This is very cheap right now. I mean, 500 cities for about $100. You could get a Galaxy S7. Compared to a lot of mid-ranges right now that are kind of more expensive than that, but offer less than what the S7 is offering. Let's just look at what this has to offer better than the mid-ranges of the time. So before we move on to the nitty-gritties of the actual video, let me just take some few seconds to go over the specs of the phone. I mean, if you do not want to see that, you could just skip to, there's a timestamp on the display right, I'm pointing to it. There's a timestamp on the display just right here right now to go skip to that. 5.1 inch AMOLED, Super AMOLED display, one camera at the back, micro USB ports. Now, one camera at the back, micro USB was the norm at the time. I'm talking about the camera has a flash and then a sensor for Samsung Health. I use this to check my stress levels, heart rate, and all that fun stuff. I mean, this is a solid device right here. It has enough bezels to accommodate the name of the manufacturer. It comes with a 32 gig storage and 64 gig variant, both with 4 gigs of RAM. The battery is a 3000 mAh battery with 15 watt fast charge. It's IP68 rated, the highest IP rating you would ever get on a smartphone till now. This had it 6 years ago. Let's move on to the comparison. So let's look at some of these features that the mid-ranges have over the Galaxy S7. So first thing obviously is the display. Mid-ranges, even just the early mid-ranges, just the cheap ones, come with much bigger displays. Mid-ranges of the time come with at least 6.2 inch display. Huawei P30 Lite, which was 2019 mid-range, 6.15 inch display we have on this 2019 mid-ranger here. So it's still bigger, way bigger than what we have on the 2016's finest. Mid-ranges of this day come at least 4000 mAh batteries. The Infinix Note 11 comes with a 5000 mAh battery with 33 watt fast charge. That's way faster charging and way bigger battery. Micro USB on the S7, USB Type-C on, say, the Infinix Note 11. If we were to use a mid-ranger to compare to this, you do not see a mid-ranger with one camera at the back this day. They have at least 3, but they do have at least a wide and an ultra wide camera with one of the nonsense cameras that they add up. That's if it's a mid-ranger. So the super mid-rangers and even going to high-end flagships devices, they come with 4. They have a depth sensor, wide, ultra wide, and then a zoom lens or a periscope or a telephoto, whatever it is that zooms in for them. Infinix Note 11 comes with 256 gigs of storage with at least 8 gigs of RAM. But at the time, I'm just gonna point this out, at the time, this was still the norm. I mean, 128, that's SD card size, you know. 3264, that was the norm at the time. It was the best at the time. So imagine what mid-ranges of that time were getting. Let's look at the other way around. What does the Galaxy S7 still has better than, or still have better than the mid-ranges of the time, of today? Super AMOLED display. It's a 5.1 inch with huge bezels, but it's a Super AMOLED display. Brighter colors, vibrant colors, deep blacks is what you're getting on this 2016 device. What you're not getting on a lot of mid-ranges this day. The Note 7, which I kept giving examples about having a faster charge, bigger battery, bigger display, whatever. It has an LCD panel. It's an LCD 120, although it's 120 Hz, but then it is an LCD panel. Next up is wireless charging. This has wireless charging. This is not something mid-ranges, no, thank you. We'd stick with the USB-C wired charger. It's IP68 rated. It's not something you see on mid-ranges of this time. They do not even have that. Optical image stabilization. A lot of the mid-ranges do not have optical image stabilizers. You might have noticed I didn't talk about the CPU or the processor. It's still good. It still holds up in time. The Exynos 8890. So it still holds up, especially coupled with the 4 gigs of RAM. Although that's not much, but it still gives it enough juice to handle a lot of multitasking, handle a lot of apps in the background. Hardly lags. I'm going to tell you that because it does lag, but hardly. Just a few situations where I've seen that it lags. You do not want to play games on this. Games have become more hardware intensive, hardware accelerated. Apps have also become hardware hungry. So yes, it does lag from time to time, but not frequently as you'd expect from an old device. I mean, this was a flagship, so it's understandable that it performs that much. The GPU though, that's where there is a problem at. There's actually no reason to buy a Galaxy S7 in this time, in 2021 or 2022. Looking at what the mid-ranges, especially even the mid-ranges, have to offer compared to the Galaxy S7. If you have a Galaxy S7, it is worth keeping. It still has better camera than a lot of the devices people use, especially in this region of ours when people are just coming up with Infinix, Techno, even Samsungs, the mid-ranges of this time, A series, A32, whatever. Those cameras are not even up to what we have on the Galaxy S7, although it has just one camera. If you want to get this because of the camera, just because of the camera, because of how cheap it is, it's good enough. But for something else, like because it's cheap, just because it's cheap, I mean, I'd advise you get something else, because you might get for the same price a bigger display, a bigger battery, faster charge, latest processor. Although this is a flagship processor in here, what you're going to get for this same price now in a mid-ranger, you're not going to get something up to the processor we have in this device. So think twice. It's still a good phone, but its reign is over now. I'm Wazz, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace out, stay safe, and keep wearing your mask.